My wife, my anchor. The story of Lena. When I first met Lena, I was a mess of a man, adrift in a world that felt too big and too cold. It was a rainy afternoon in a small coffee shop, the kind with mismatched chairs and the smell of roasted beans clinging to the air. She was sitting by the window, her dark hair falling in soft waves, reading a book with a pencil tucked behind her ear. I don't know what made me walk over. Maybe it was the way she smiled at the pages like they were old friends. But when I did, and she looked up with those warm hazel eyes, I knew I'd found something worth holding on to. Lena was 27 then, a schoolteacher with a laugh that could light up a room and a patience that seemed to stretch forever. I was 29, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart bruised from too many wrong turns. We talked for hours that day, about nothing and everything, her love for poetry, my obsession with fixing old cars, the way rain made the world feel quieter. By the time we left, the rain had stopped, and I'd already decided I wanted to marry her. It took me a year to convince her, but Lena always says she knew that day, too. We built a life together in a small house on the edge of town, with a backyard where wildflowers grew without asking permission. Lena turned it into a home, painting the walls in soft blues and filling the shelves with books and little trinkets from our adventures. A seashell from our first beach trip, a chipped mug from a flea market we stumbled into on a whim. She had a way of making everything feel like it belonged, including me. Lena's strength was quiet, the kind you don't notice until it's holding you up. When my father passed away, I shut down, lost in grief I didn't know how to name. Lena didn't push me to talk. Instead, she'd leave me notes on the fridge, simple things like, "You're stronger than you think," or "I'm here when you're ready." She'd cook my favorite meals, sit with me in silence, and somehow make the weight feel lighter. When I finally broke, sobbing like a child in her arms, she held me without judgment, her hands steady against my shaking. She wasn't perfect, though she'd laugh if I said that, insisting she was perfectly flawed. Lena could be stubborn, especially when it came to her dreams. She'd always wanted to write a novel, a story about a woman who finds herself in the chaos of life. She'd scribble in notebooks late at night, her brow furrowed, chasing words that didn't always come. There were years when she doubted herself, when the demands of teaching and keeping our life together made her put the pen down. I'd find her staring at her manuscripts, her eyes heavy with frustration. "What if I'm not good enough?" she'd whisper. I'd tell her she was more than enough, but it was her own fire that kept her going. Last year, she finally finished her novel, and when it was published, I cried harder than she did, seeing her name on the cover. We faced storms together, too. There was a time when money was tight, when my shop nearly went under, and we argued more than we laughed. Lena never wavered. She took on extra tutoring jobs, stayed up late budgeting, and reminded me we were a team. "We'll get through this," she'd say, her voice like a lighthouse in the fog. And we did. We always did because of her. Now at 35, Lena is still the heart of our home. Our daughter, Emma, who's 6, inherited her mother's love for stories, and every night Lena weaves tales of dragons and brave girls, until Emma's eyes flutter shut. I watch them sometimes, my wife and daughter curled up together, and I feel a gratitude so deep it aches. Lena's not just my wife, she's my partner, my compass, the woman who makes every day feel like a gift. Last month, we celebrated our 10th anniversary. I took her back to that coffee shop, now older and a little worn like us. I gave her a locket with a tiny photo of us from that first day, rain-soaked and smiling. She laughed, tears in her eyes, and said, "You're still my best adventure." And that's Lena, finding poetry in the ordinary, making a life of love and grit and quiet miracles. She's my wife, my story, and I'd choose her 1,000 times over.